Hi, this is Rachel from Ray K Books, and today I'm talking to Sarah Tregay, who is the author of fan art. Hello, Sarah.
Hello.
So, can you please give everybody a synopsis of fan art?
Yeah, the quick synopsis is it's about a boy who hijacks his high school literary magazine, and he puts a graphic novel into the magazine that's not supposed to be there. It's also a romance. He falls in love with his best friend, and it is an LGBTQ story.
So the main character is male. I'm guessing from your synopsis. So
Yep.
was it hard to write in a male's perspective?
It was interesting. I kept getting a lot of feedback from my editors about him, and at one point in time we took him like completely out and had to put in like all new characteristics. So apparently my first guess wasn't male enough. And he needed
Really?
a little rewrite.
And so can you tell us a little bit about his significant other?
Oh, yes, that was the easy part, because when you're choosing like a love interest, you want to choose someone that like you could totally fall for. And so his best friend is Mason, and he's like totally cute and really, really smart. And my husband's name is Jason, so I named him Mason, so I'd always remember, who he was. And so it was fun, and then I made him look like this boy that I was in love with for years. I could describe him like the back of my hand.
So why did you choose to go the LGBT route?
I have written a short story with these characters. I kind of wanted to try an LGBT story, and then I sent it to my agent because I was going to send it to an anthology, and I just want to make sure it was okay with her. And she's just like, "Oh, this is great. I sent it to your editor." And I'm like, "Oh, well, it's a short story. She won't really be interested in it." And then she's just like, "Oh my gosh, this would be great. Can you make it into a novel?" And I was like, let me get back to you on that idea.
So
Yeah, it was a fun little experiment, A, to try a male character, and then B, to try, more of a diverse character, and that made for more of a diverse story. When I did take the short story and make it longer, there was a lot of things that you could work with for the plot.
So have you gotten any fans to give you an email about like maybe a thanks for a diversity book, or what was the response of something like this?
Oh, I think people really connect with the I fell in love with my best friend part of the book, because that's what most of the emails that I get are about. Of thank you for writing about falling in love with your best friend. It's the worst thing ever, or it's the best thing ever. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of thought it was kind of an interesting subject.
So going back to the diversity aspect, people are saying that there's a lack of diversity in young adult. So what do you think about this subject? Is that one of the reasons why you decided to do a diverse character, because there's not a lot out there?
Well, when I started the novel, there was some, and the thing was, I kept buying these books, stacks and stacks of books, and they were all. I kept finding ones that were very, very sad, and they were beautiful books, and they made me cry, and I loved them. But there was a lot of violence, a lot of sad endings, and part of me is like, oh, I just want a happy romance with a good ending. And and my editor kind of felt the same way. It's just like, well, let's make one of these books, but it will be sweet. There will be some tension, but it doesn't have to be life or death. And, no one really needs to get beat up or sent to the hospital or something tragic in order to write an LGBT story. And fortunately, the world is always changing, and there's so many more books in the 2 years that it took me to write this one. And so that's always wonderful to see.
I know that the community loves these type of books, so thank you for writing one. I think that's great. So who designed the covers or the cover of fan art? Because based on the cover, I'm not quite sure what it's about.
Yeah, we kind of did that on purpose because it is a book about boys, but it's for female readers pretty much. I mean, there's more teen readers who are female. So we wanted to kind of take the gender out of it and put a little bit of the art and the markers and the, school paper into it. So Harper does all the design, and this one was actually a second-hand cover. When I first got it, there was a piece of tape over the title, and it said, "Your title here." And there was a piece of tape over the author's name, and it says, "Your name here." And I said, "Oh." And they said, "Well, do you want white or do you want teal?" And I said, "Oh, I want teal. That's so pretty." Of course, I just went to Barnes & Noble, and every book was teal. So I totally can't guess colors for covers anymore. That didn't work for me.
So it's great that they gave you a little bit of the creative range. I think that that's nice. But you bring up a good point about young adult, and that is a lot of them are girls or women, and
Yeah.
your book is about gay guys. So how do you think that teen or young adults will relate to someone like the two main guys?
I don't think that readers have a problem crossing the gender divide. I mean, I think sometimes in middle grade with younger kids, when boys want to read about boys and girls want to read about girls, but I don't think teen girls really care who the protagonist is as long as they can relate to them. And they falling in love with the best friend or just the regular high school problems. I think they're totally cool with that.
So what, in your opinion, makes a character the best character it can be? Like, what qualities do you think characters should have to make them great characters?
Oh, I think they need a voice and they need something interesting. I mean, so many times you begin a book and you just don't feel like there's anything to the character. You really just gotta like them from that first page and to keep going with them. I think sometimes if the character is in a really bad place, it's really hard to get in with them. And those are sometimes the books that I put down. Is a character's in a really dark place or has just done something so terrible that I don't want to go there at that moment. I might pick it up later.
Is there a message in your novel that you want readers to grasp?
I'm kind of one of those people who thinks the reader brings as much to the book as the author brings to the book. And so I don't really know exactly what each person will take away from it, because I think we're just all so different, and it takes two people to read a book, one person to write it, one person to read it. So I'm kind of waiting to see if anyone wants to tell me what they took out of it. That would be great.
And how much did you do any research for this book?
I did a little. It was mostly amongst friends and then like friends of friends. We are trying to decide, say, if Jamie should be in the closet or out of the closet when the book begins, and whether it should be a coming out story or should it be about something else. And then how was he going to interact with his parents, and did they know if he was gay, and was that going to be part of the story? And this one I got from my agent's sister, I believe, was that her parents were like just totally gung-ho about her sister coming out. So much so that it was like embarrassing. And so I took that information that I got from having a conversation with my agent, and then her sister read the book, and we kind of like found this little gem of an idea in that research. Like, you talk to somebody who talks to somebody who talks to somebody, and so it was really fun. way to do research. It wasn't like at the library by any means.
Have you heard from your fans any stories about like have they emailed you like this is very inspiring, here's my story or something like that?
Um, it's sometimes a little hard to tell exactly what their story is. They'll tell you a little bit, but you know, I think they know that we're authors and we love stories, and if they tell us too much, they might be in our next book.
You know, that could happen. It could happen.
It totally could.
Yeah, I mean, it could spark something like, hey, that's a really good idea for a character. And then you are one.
Right.
So, which actor would you like seeing playing the lead character from fan art?
Well, you know, by the time I choose somebody, they're always too old for some reason. You know, like, oh, that person would be really good, and then the book comes out and it's like 2 years later, and they're already in their 20s when they're supposed to be 18. But I was looking at Captain America. Oh my goodness, he's so cute, from the Avengers. And I'm like, oh, if we could just rewind the clock about 15 years, you'd be perfect.
He was in a few movies when he was like in his 20s. Have you ever seen those?
Well, I was thinking I needed to go find those because he would be so cute and a little bit geekier and not as buff.
No, he's actually not. He was in a lot of comedies, which is weird. He's like Captain America now, but yeah, he was so cute.
Perfect.
So my next question is, do you have any advice for aspiring writers?
You know, the whole idea of, well, I'm going to write all day and I'm going to make my living as a writer. I actually find that idea really stressful because it's very hard to make a living as a writer. So I have a day job and I do that all day. And I write what I want to write, when I want to write, and I keep that creativity in the writing because I don't need to buy my groceries with that money. It gives me a little more freedom because there's art in there somewhere. And so even though everyone says that this is their dream, part of me says, no thanks, I'm fine.
Right. And we have a Twitter question.
Okay.
So this is from Ariel, and she asks, what inspired you to write a story with the LGBT theme?
Yeah, it actually started with, I have a little sister from a program called Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and we were standing around her school waiting for a program to start, and she told me a story, and I just couldn't believe it at the time. She said, you wouldn't believe what happened in government today. And it was a story that involved, or didn't involve, we didn't really know these students' orientations, but it was a story that if the students were gay, it was a great story. And so I kind of went from there, and just because like my heart fell on the floor, I'm like, that happened in front of the entire class, and it was like 8 o'clock at night, and I'm like, and everyone in this school knows what happened in government by, you know, this time of day, and just what would happen if one of those people were my character. So yeah, it kind of came together like that, and that's what the short story was about before the book came together as a novel.
And then she asks another question. What was more fun to write, fan art or Love and Leftovers?
I think Love and Leftovers was more fun because it's in poems. It is actually a novel in verse. Oh, you can't really see the poems. There you go. So with poetry, you get a little more leeway. You don't have to write like any transitional sentences, or you don't actually have to make chapters. It works out really, really well. You can play with words, and you can be silly, and you can make the words go across the page or make shapes. And so it's it's a little more of a creative way to write than in prose.
And that kind of reminds me of, you know, the choose your own adventure games?
Yeah.
Kind of like that fun thing. So yeah, that's really cool that you wrote something like that. So now we're going to play a game, and the game is called Would You Rather. And so if those who are watching don't know what Would You Rather is, I would ask Sarah here, would you rather eat apples or oranges for the rest of your life? And then she'd have to say apples or oranges. Except this is literature edition. So the first one is, would you rather read a book that is written poorly, has an excellent story, or read one with weak content but is written well?
Hmm. I think I'll go with written poorly but good story, because I just love stories, and sometimes it gets a little frustrating when nothing happens in a book.
Would you rather write novels where all the characters are women or all men?
I might go with women. They're a little easier to write since I'm a woman.
Only write your books in trilogies or standalones?
Oh my gosh, standalones for young adult romance really work better. Trilogies, I don't think that would go so well for me.
And then the next one is, would you rather write a book without using conjunctions or have every sentence of your book begin with one?
Oh, no conjunctions would be okay. I actually wrote like a book for middle grade without any, and all my friends said, "Oh my God, you forgot the conjunction." So apparently it can be done.
Would you rather write a plot twist you hated or write a character you hated?
Ooh, plot twist. Definitely.
Would you rather a super successful movie be made from one of your books or a long-lasting television series?
Oh, I'd have to go with a movie because I am still watching Dawson's Creek. It started out in 1998 and I'm still not done.
Get on it, girl, get on it.
I know! Really?
And then the last one is, would you rather critics rip your book apart publicly or never talk about it at all?
Oh, that's a tough one. I guess I'd rather have it quiet because it's really embarrassing when you get something that you don't want to read.
That concludes our game. Yay! Good job, good job. Gold star. So with the critics, would you rather question, kind of bouncing off of that, do you read bad reviews of your books?
I don't read like any reviews. I do get to like the big ones when you get like a Publisher's Weekly or something like that. But most of the reviews, I let people vet them for me. If they're just like, oh, I saw one you want to read, then I'll read that one. But otherwise, I don't read them.
What was the hardest part and the easiest part of writing fan art?
I think the hardest part was originally I had a bit of a whodunit in the end, and I had this girl named Serena actually do the whodunit. But my editor said, I don't like her, take her out. And so just like, oh, that means everything has to change. And so it took finding someone else to do the thing and changing enough of their motivation of why they did it. So yeah, taking out characters is sometimes really easy. You just combine two of them. But with her, it was really tricky.
And what's the easiest about writing this book?
The easiest one about fan art was actually there's poems in between the chapters where you get a little glimpse of the not the main character, not Jamie, but the other characters in the book as they submit things to the literary magazine. There'll be a poem by the different characters. And that was probably the most fun, was getting to be in their heads for a little while, for a single page, and see what they would think.
And my next question is, do you have a specific writing style?
Like, well, I wanted to write fan art in verse and I wasn't allowed to.
Why?
in the poems, you know.
Why
So
couldn't
I
you?
would say that that was my style, but I guess it's not.
So you write books about poems. You obviously love poems. Do you think that you're gonna come out with a book that is purely poems, kind of like Shell? Is it Shell's? Oh, what's his last name? The poem who did
Shel Silver.
Where the Sidewalk Ends.
Yeah. No, I also like writing novels or like stories so that there's a narrative arc. And so it's the thing that interests me the most is using the poems to tell that bigger story. Whereas when it's like a collection of poems, it's some very, very short stories as, you know, there's one story per poem, but I like connecting them all. It's like this weird hybrid thing.
Can you give us a little bit of more of an insight on your main character? What does he do that's so special?
Um, I think that when he starts to stand up for himself, he starts to gain his confidence and try and figures out, okay, well, this is who I am, and I just need to get there. And when he stands up for the other LGBT students in school, even though he is still in the closet at school, and puts their artwork into the magazine, he really starts to figure out, okay, well, this is who I am and this is where I'm going. And so it was kind of a fun journey to follow.
So you've been saying that when writing this book, you had to think about will he be out of the closet or in the closet? You know, when the book starts, what about the parents? You have this whole thought process. Does that mean that you outline the whole book before you start writing, or you just start writing and then you just make changes, you know, after thinking of something?
Yeah, no, I don't know how to do an outline. I've gone to a lot of classes on how to do it, but it just doesn't work for me because I'll like write a page and then the characters will be doing something totally different by the time I get to the end of the chapter. And I'm just like, okay, I'll go with that and then I fix it later.
So you're one of those authors that they say that when they write it, the character takes the reins and just writes it themselves.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the back of my brain. I just don't know it yet.
How long, on average, does it take you to write a book?
I think both of the books I wrote in about a year, and then I took about a year to edit.
And what genre do you want to write in next, and what's one that you will never write?
Oh, I wouldn't mind going historical. I think that there's a lot of potential there, but I'm not really good at wrapping my head around a fantasy. So I tell all my friends that fantasies just go like way over my head. I can't be in your critique group because I don't understand the books. So it would have to be realistic, historical, kind of like I do realistic contemporary now.
It's funny you're saying this because the last person I interviewed, Olivia Blackburn, she said,
Uh-huh.
I can only do fantasy. That's all I can do. I can't do anything else.
Well, thank goodness, right? Because we need fantasy books just as much.
Exactly. So I'm like, wow, two opposites. So,
Right.
yeah, it's crazy. So you said that you would never write a fantasy, but so you don't read fantasy?
Once in a while, like when something's really big and really popular, I'm like, okay, I'll get that as an audiobook and I'll check it out.
What do you
So,
think of trailers for books? Do you have one?
I don't have one. It's not done, but apparently I know someone now who can do trailers.
Ooh.
I started it, and the software got the best of me, so it's still like half finished.
So when you get writer's block, what do you do? Do you like maybe leave it for a little bit and let your mind rest, or do you try to power through it? What kind of author are you?
Well, We have a great little literary community here in Boise, and there are these workshop opportunities where, like, a writer will it'll be a group event, and you can go and they will say read a poem and give you some ideas, and you'll talk about the poem, and then they'll say, okay, just write for about 8 or 10 minutes on this topic. And even though it's not about your book, and it might be have different characters, or it might be a little story about yourself, at least you're writing. And so I go to these things, and some of the poems that ended up in between the chapters in fan art that were just kind of a little tangent ended up from some of these writing sessions where you just free up your mind and you do something different. And you say it's okay. And then at the end, you get to share with the other writers in the group. And sometimes somebody will have this great word in their piece, and you'll be like, I'm going to steal that. And you jot it down so you can use it later.
Sneaky.
Yeah, it's a good place to get ideas.
So we have another Twitter question from Ariel, and she asks, do you have a certain writing schedule or a set goal once you start writing, like a word count?
No, not at all. I work during the day, and so I write some in the evening, I write some on my lunch break, and I write a little bit on the weekends. So it's a little sporadic for me, so I can't say, ooh, I'm going to get 2,000 words in today, because it might not happen.
And so we're almost nearing the end of our chat, so now I'd like to go into what you are writing next, or what's coming up.
Well, I don't really know. I've got a few projects in the works. One of them I call the never-ending story because I don't know how it ends. So hopefully I'll come up with an ending and I'll actually write it. But it's fun to play with. Every few years I get it out and I write a little on it. So yeah, I don't have any book contracts at the moment or anything going on. So it's all just out there. I can do whatever I want.
Would you consider making a sequel to fan art or Love and Leftovers?
I've gotten some ideas from some readers, and they're just like, oh, we want a short story or novella from Mason's point of view, which I thought was a really great idea to show the love interest point of view. But I'm worried about it because if it's a romance, they need to get together in the end, which means they need to break up sometime in the story, and I'm just not ready to go there yet.
And then for your own reading, do you prefer ebooks or traditional paperback?
Oh, I like paperbacks and I like audiobooks.
And where does your
Kindle thing with the how much have you read at the bottom of the page makes it feel like a race to me, and I just can't look back.
Oh my God, same here. I'm just like, oh no, I must finish. I must finish. It's horrible. I play like this game. I have to ignore it. I'm so with you.
Yeah. I'm sure I would like it if I could just calm down and not look at that number, but
not only that, the of you have 2 minutes left in this chapter, and then I keep looking at that number like, how many minutes do I have now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a way to turn that off, but yeah, it's really distracting.
I know, it's like a piece of masking tape on that screen, man.
You're going to have to. So when did you decide to become a writer? Oh, this is going to be our last question.
Yeah. I had written as a teenager, but my mom was an artist, so I knew very much that I needed to find a career and not try to go into the arts for a career. And so I kind of put it away, and I went to college. And then after college, I kind of settled down, bought a house, and then I started reading like right where I left off as a teenager. And when I came back to YA, the books were so much better. Just like this huge boom of books and authors had happened while I was away. And so it was so inspiring to read all these really good books, and that's what got me writing again as an adult.
Nice, nice. And
Yeah.
so now I'm going to talk about the giveaway.
Yes.
Sarah is so graciously giving a copy of her book, Love and Leftovers. Yes, there. Hold on, let me put the camera there. There it is.
Here we go.
Love and Leftovers. And this is USA only and will end next week on the 22nd. And in order to win, this live chat is going to become a YouTube video, like right after. So once it's a YouTube video, you have to comment on that. It can be any comment whatsoever. It does not matter. But the second thing, and this is optional because not everybody has a Twitter, but follow Sarah on Twitter, and then I'll put her username in the description so you don't have to search for it yourself. And if you do follow her, then put your username in the comment so I can verify the entry. And that's it. I told you USA and ends the 22nd. So thank you so much, Sarah. I had a great time chatting with you.
Yes, thank you.
I will see you later. Bye.
All right.